So, over the past couple of weeks or months, I have talked a lot about being still and a lot about just observing and noticing, and really kind of like a lack of action. And that type of energy has been extremely important for me. It's been a really great practice. But right now, I'm being asked to do something different, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So, I personally have always been somebody who has a really strong intuition, a really strong inner knowing, but I haven't always been somebody who has listened to that. And a lot of times by me ignoring my intuition or me ignoring my inner knowing, a lot of times it has required a really drastic action or movement in my life in order for me to kind of shift directions. And as I'm trying to move away from that behavior of ignoring my inner knowing or ignoring my intuition and trying to gracefully and slowly move in different directions that I'm being asked to go, I wanted to share kind of my experience with you guys. So, if you're somebody like me who really enjoys or who thrives in challenges, thrives in stress, somebody who's very loyal, somebody who doesn't give up. Oftentimes you can also have the characteristic, or that characteristic can be paired with ignoring your intuition or ignoring your inner knowing. And I'm trying to, and I am moving away from that. So as I mentioned, I've talked a lot about being still, a lot about being patient and observing over the past couple of weeks, months. But right now, I'm actually in a season that is asking me to shift and move and change and take action. And previously in my life, I have, you know, been somebody who definitely might have gotten the signs that hey, this job, this relationship, this location, this family dynamic, a lot of times I would get the inclination that something needed to change, but I oftentimes would ignore it and I would make up excuses as to oh, this is just a difficult time, or oh, I got to get through this, or this is a part of anything that you want is worth, or anything that is worth having is hard. I have kind of had that mindset that a lot of us have, that there are always really hard struggles and pains through everything in life. And what I've come to realize is, yes, that's true that we do have, nothing's perfect. You are always going to have struggles with whatever it is that you're experiencing in your life, whether it be a relationship, a job, a location. Yes, it's definitely true. But there's also, on the flip side, another piece of this when you are ignoring your inner knowing, when you are knowing in your heart that it's time to make a shift or time to grow in a different direction. And a lot of times we just kind of ignore that piece. And I wanted to talk about me personally, as I'm in a chapter of taking action. This is the first time in my life that I'm actually doing it in somewhat of a graceful way, being patient. Over the past couple of, I don't know, I would say maybe 6 months, I have had this inclination that there was a piece of my life that needed to shift and change. And I definitely honored it. I observed it. I was patient watching it, but I didn't take action immediately. I just kind of sat with it and allowed it to be what it was. Allowed it to allowed my observation to kind of just be there and not judge it as a good or bad thing, and just kind of take note this is interesting that you are continuously getting this pull to go your separate direction from this situation. And as time has gone on and moved on, just kind of being aware of that I was having that feeling, and then trying to decide, okay, am I being asked to sit in this challenge, this obstacle, or am I being asked to go in a different direction? And I feel I'm so excited because for probably one of the first times in my life, I am actually going through all of the motions of allowing things to shift and change, and it not be a huge horrible big deal, or not allowing things to just like erupt like a volcano before I actually shifted and changed. Because I can say in my past that has been what I've experienced, like whether it be a breakup or whether it be like the end of like a job or something I'm doing in my career, or whether it be like the location that I'm living in. I've always had like inner knowings and just kind of ignored them. And because I convinced myself that like things needed to be hard in order for them to like eventually be good. And then I allowed something like huge and abrupt to happen in order for me to shift and change. And when I did that, when I made things abrupt or erupt, when I made things erupt, like it honestly made the process so much more difficult to shift and change and navigate through, because there was a lot of chaos happening. And right now, as I have been like observing, noticing that like I'm probably being asked to move in a different direction in my life right now, it's like as I've gotten closer and closer to making that change and making that move, it's like now that I've been so calm and still with this knowing that it's time to make a change, now actually ripping off the band-aid and saying, hey, like the change is now and it's time to do it, it makes it so much more smoother. It makes it like there's not as much questions in your mind about like, are you making the right choice or not? Because you weren't coming from a place of emotion. You're coming from a place of like actual inner knowing. And so as I personally am being asked to go from one chapter of stillness and observation to now to another chapter of like, hey, there's a new beginning that's starting. There's a new door that's being asked to be opened. There's a door that's being asked to be closed. Like as I'm moving towards a place of action, and I'm coming at this place of action from a place of very calm stillness, very in touch with my inner knowing, with my intuition. As I'm moving towards that, I'm just realizing how much easier it is to operate in this way, as opposed to in the past, I was so like, oh my gosh, I don't want to make this decision. I don't want to deal with the change. I don't want to deal with the uncertainty. I don't want to deal with possibly like hurting people I care about. Like in the past, I've avoided taking action when my inner knowing was telling me to, because I was trying to avoid all of those emotions. But at this point in time, as I'm actually moving in a direction of taking action and changing and allowing things to shift, things are moving a lot more gracefully. And I know all of us either have situations in our lives right now or very recently have had situations where it's like you're being asked to shift or change or move. And some of us do it gracefully, and some of us, like, somebody might as well kick us off of a cliff and be like, hey, it's time to change. It's time to move. It's time to end this chapter. And as I'm finally trying something new and different and allowing myself to operate from a place of just inner knowing and my intuition, it just feels so much more like I'm having a softer landing. Those of you guys who have been like me or are like me in the past that have like literally had to be kicked off a mountain in order for you to make a shift or change in your life that you knew deep down needed to happen, like you quite literally fall, like you hit the ground. Just like if you were to be kicked off a mountain, you literally hit the ground hard, and it takes you time and energy to like sift through all the pieces and try to pick everything back up. But as I'm experiencing moving in a direction of allowing things to shift and change and doing that with grace and kind of just like slowly inching into the water, like it just feels so much more better, so much more intentional, so much more peaceful. And that's not to say that like taking change or taking action or having shifts in your life, it's not to say that they're not uncomfortable, because they are uncomfortable. It does require a lot of trust in the universe, trust in yourself that you're making the right decision. It is uncomfortable, but it's just a lot more peaceful and a lot more with ease when you're coming from a place of like, I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I know that I'm being asked to like take a shift right now or close this door. And where I'm at right now, like taking action in my life, doing it with ease, with grace. Like, I know that I'm so in tune with myself and with like what's being asked of me right now and the lessons that I'm being asked to learn through this process of shifting and changing. Like, I'm so in tune with that that it's not difficult to trust what's going on, and it's not difficult to understand that this is all working out like in all the greater good for everybody. And I just know that this is something that people can resonate with so much, because all of us have been asked to make a shift or change in our lives. And there's just like definitely two different types of people, maybe three, four, five different types of people, but there's two really main different types of people. People who have to be forced into some sort of chaotic eruption in order for you to change and shift and grow. Or there's people that like just move with grace, slowly, with inner knowing, intuition, and they move into a new direction and into a new chapter. Like, this is something that I'm really happy that I finally have been able to understand, that all the different experiences that we experience in life, all the different chapters that we experience, all the different doors that open and close in our lives, like they're here to teach us lessons, and they're here to be just experiences. Like, nothing lasts forever. No situation, no job, no location, no family member, no partner. Like, nothing lasts for everything. Everything always shifts and changes and moves. And sometimes you have different chapters within those locations or people or situations. Like, sometimes there's multiple chapters, but whenever you're coming in contact with time to make a shift and make a change and close that chapter and open a new chapter, like, are you going to be somebody who's going to do it with grace, with inner knowing, with intuition, with intention? Are you going to be somebody who's moving in that direction? Or are you going to be like me, who in the past have just like done everything I possibly could to hold on, like stay attached to these persons, people, thing, like did everything I could to like stay attached to those things, and then essentially got like thrown off a mountain when things like were forced to change, even though I knew in my heart that things needed to change already. So I wanted to make a video about this because I know this is something that people can resonate with. Like, over the past couple of months, I've been super asked to just stay still, be still, take no action, and just observe. And now I'm being asked to be quite literally put into a chapter of taking action, making shifts, closing doors, opening doors, and just kind of like moving into a new season. And I wanted to make a video about this because I know that like I'm not the only person out there that experiences this. So I want to know in the comments, let me know what you've experienced in your life. Where are you at? Like, are you much more listening to your inner knowing, your intuition, or are you still somebody who's like avoiding just the inevitable? Like, hey, you know it's time to change, you know it's time to shift, you know it's time to open a new book or a new chapter. Like, are you somebody who's just avoiding the difficult stuff, or maybe not trusting yourself or trusting the situation and just kind of avoiding what needs to happen? So I want to know in the comments below, where are you at? And if you're at a place of like gracefully moving through stuff, slowly, surely, all of that, what what certain situation took you to get there? Like, there must have been a breaking point of like, okay, I'm doing things differently this time. I want to know in the comments.